Rolling camera. 3, 2, 1. Rolling sound. Who are you?
I'm Steve Ray. I'm from Mississippi, a little town called Collegiate. 100 people. We live 3 miles outside of that, so on a farm. We had pigs and chickens and cows and everything out there. Grew up had friends at church and school, but most of my playmates were housekeepers' kids when they came once a week.
What was your childhood like? And what were some important lessons that you learned then that you carry with you today?
Overall, it was a happy childhood. I was a strong-willed child. I remember very specifically, I remember being in a stroller, must have been 2 years old. I remember a pastor coming to spend the night, and I was fascinated because we didn't have guests, and his name was Taylor. I remember the taillights of his car. My dad was telling me how to back in, and then I saw that he left there in 1958. So I would only have been a year old, maybe 18 months. Why I remembered that, I don't know. I remember drinking from a bottle. We had a piglet that the mother wouldn't nurse him, and they said, "Can the pig have your bottle?" Yes, I wanted the pig to have the bottle, and I was fascinated. I remember with the pig. The pig followed my dog around because the mother wouldn't have anything to do with him, and he considered the dog his parent. I remember deciding to take my tricycle into town one time. Been 3 miles away. I got a few hundred feet and got stuck in the mud and decided to abort. My parents were at a conniption. I tended to wander away at a very young age and get lost in the woods occasionally and things like that. The only time I got scared was I was about 4 years old and I got lost. I remember crying and seeing the barn and knowing where I was. But everything, I grew up in a little Baptist church there, uh, very farming community. Everyone got along pretty well. Farmers worked together to do things. I went to first grade at Ashland because my mom taught math there. And then she actually got fired because she refused to fail to pass a football player who had not done his work. I didn't find that out until about 2 years ago. I reconnected with the daughter of the woman who carpooled with her. She is an author and lives in Nashville, and we've become friends and kept up. Um, like I said, I have a lot of memories, very vivid from first grade on. Uh, Preschool, I remember playing with friends. Things that people would have forgotten about totally, wouldn't have remembered at all about, and I remember them full detail. "Do you remember this?" "No, I don't remember that." "Are you sure it happened?" "Yes." It's like watching a video to me. Remember very vividly. I used to like to ride my bicycle a lot. Had, one of my friends in high school was Pat. She was a 4th cousin, um, and our houses were about a mile apart through the woods, and we would ride our bikes back and forth. Her younger brother would join us quite a bit. He's about 2 years younger. We had a lot of good times. Remember going to the pond and wading around in the water and looking back and seeing about 12 or 15 snakes, 6 feet long, and around your arm hanging from trees and swimming in the water. It's like, okay, I guess we won't go back and do that again. Um, just a lot of adventure times, living way out in the country. I only went to the city. We'd go to Memphis. My aunt lived in Memphis. Remember visits to Memphis. I remember when Christmas we went there, they said 20% chance of snow flurries. It started snowing. My dad said we better go home now. Got to Germantown, would be like getting to Marietta from Atlanta, and they were only letting people's chains on the car go. So we put chains on the car, got halfway home, 14 inches of snow, roads were completely blocked, and we spent the night in a farmhouse. To me, it was adventure. My parents, I'm sure, were not happy being stranded in the middle of nowhere. Then again, I grew up in the middle of nowhere.
How does a flower grow?
I'm a horticulturist. I could give you the scientific plant physiology down to cell structure. I'm always fascinated by plants. I have a lot of rare plants at my house, one or two on the endangered list. I have four of the five oldest living species in my yard. It it's fascinating watching a seed. As a small child, we would plant a seed in something where we could see it germinate and grow. And we had a garden. We would always plant the garden and watching the plants grow. But flowers are very diverse. Some things that bloom, there are plants that bloom rarely, once every several years. The century plant, it's not exactly 100 years to bloom, but it's a very long time. And when the plant flowers, it dies. A new plant will come up from its roots. Plants are fascinating to me. They're works of art, God's artwork.
Please give me a random number from 1 to 100.
37.
What's been your biggest mistake so far in life, and how did you learn from it?
Oh, gee, that's hard to add. I've made so many. There are a couple of relationships, I have to say, where the person turned out to be not the person I thought they were, and it turned out to be a big disaster. Most people I've met, I would love to see again. There are one or two people I hope I never run into.
Please give me another number from 1 to 100.
21.
Is what you're doing now what you always wanted to do growing up? If not, what did you dream to do?
I thought about being a doctor when I was a little boy. I got a scholarship to study horticulture, and I like plants. I didn't get into a lot of the farm work. My dad didn't think it was, my dad wanted to be an actuary because I had all the math awards. I've been bored silly. Horticulture is being an artist. You design things. I make funny things out of plants sometimes. I see potential in nature. I just see what something looks like. I've been on a tour of homes a couple times. The garden tour was first, and people said, "Oh, you're the visionary." That's one of the best compliments I've ever had.
Please give me another number from 1 to 100.
99.
What quote resonates with you more than any other?
I think I have a dream speech from Martin Luther King. I grew up in a very racist community. I can remember when he was killed, I was sick in bed and I watched it on TV and going to school, and the kids were saying things about him. And I'm just thinking, even as an 11-year-old boy, I knew that they were repeating what they heard from their parents. The movie Mississippi Burning came out. I couldn't watch it until I was like 45 years old because it was so depressing to me because I had lived through that. And to believe that people in authority figures are supposed to protect people like policemen did horrible things to people. Um, I almost forgot the original question, but the quote. You mentioned the quote. Yeah, there's so many quotes out there. So maybe I've got a quote from Mother Teresa on a tree in my backyard. It talks about how plants grow, they need nourishment, and they are nourished by God. We cannot live in darkness, similar to Martin Luther King. We need light to survive.
Please give me another number from 1 to 100.
42.
What is your greatest fear? What have you done in your life to overcome or avoid the fear?
I've been acrophobic. I was afraid of heights. If I lie in bed and picture myself on the top of the Empire State Building, I will get dizzy thinking about it. I have jumped out of an airplane more than once. I've been in a helicopter. That's not as scary to me as the some of the rides at Six Flags. I'm not sure what the difference is, but just that feeling of being. I remember lying in the yard looking up at stars and imagine falling that far, and it was just terrifying to me, almost paralyzing. And I fear losing people I'm close to. Um, I've lost a whole lot of best friends over the years. Maybe 5 or 6 times I've lost my best friend, either illness or accident, and that's scary. That's really scary.
Please give me one final number from 1 to 100.
62.
What would you consider to be your deepest fear? And this question can really be telling of the depth or lack thereof of a person.
Like I said, I guess it's fear of losing someone I love. Terrifying sometimes. I remember a friend, I lost 2 first cousins out of 5 in car accidents. And in my 20s, when I was a teenager, in my 20s, if someone were 15 minutes, like I would have a panic attack at times over that. I love people very deeply. Most of my friendships. I have an old girlfriend. She was a lot older, and we decided I was closer to the age of her children than I was to her. We are still close friends. We spent the last 34 Thanksgivings together in Florida. So friendships I take seriously long term. We weren't meant to be lovers, but we're best friends.
How do you find meaning in your daily experience? What propels you through your life?
That I can help someone. I mentioned losing. I go to a lot of funerals because I know, even if I didn't know the person that died, it means a lot to the people who love them that someone cared to reach out and say, "I'm here." People are afraid to go to funerals because they don't know what to say. You don't have to say. Just being there. When my friend Don was killed, my friend Jane Martin came down. She was a minister. Another minister watched her and did her dissertation on the ministry of presence, simply being there. So I always try to be there for people. That's so important. People don't understand, they're afraid of that because they don't know what to say, but it's just being there and being a positive influence on people, reaching out when people are hurting, and being a example.
What has the experience of living been like for you to this point? What can people learn from your life?
I've had ups and downs. I've had good things. One of my dreams was to have my home on tour. I had that happen. Um, like I said, I've had relationships that weren't always what I wanted them to be, and I'm just happy to share with my friends, happy to spend time with my friends. I was in the hospital back in October. They pretty much said if I hadn't gone that day, I might not still be here. I didn't realize I was that bad of shape. And I have to reflect on that. That I'm here for a reason. A lot of my friends are gone, and every time I'm able to reach out, and someone said, "Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you've done in my life." I'll write something and put it online. I send a weekly thing out to the deacons entitled "It's Been a Good Week," and I usually share a very personal story. Some is very heartfelt, and I always end it with humor. And I've had a lot of people thank you for doing that. Thank you for the humor. Thank you for that perspective. I had not thought of it that way before.
So, this is the big question, and the reason we're here today. Life is fleeting. We never know when it's our time. If these were your last words ever recorded, what would you say about your life and your legacy?
That I've made a difference in somewhere, a positive influence that I've left behind. I mean, um, I have a decent net worth, but nothing. But I'm just thinking, well, if I died tomorrow, some of it goes to church, some of it goes to friends, some of it goes to family. And I'm kind of funny about, well, I don't want to spend this money because I want to leave it behind because there's some mission that will be going to. Kind of funny about that in a way, but I don't know. It's uh, it's all about. I used to worry about things, and at some point, I decided that if it's not going to make a difference in 100 years, it's not worth worrying about. It's and yet we still worry. I have a friend that says, "Why pray when you can worry?" and he tries to remember that it should be the opposite. But we worry about a lot of things that we should not worry about. And I would like to teach people to look at the big picture.
I'll ask you one final time. Who are you?
I'm a country boy turned city boy. Big time.
Thank you so much for your time today. That's a wrap.